Yeah, so the former co-founder of Blackboard, which is a learning system that I don't know if you guys used in college. I used it to check grades and syllabi. You don't like it, Alex.
It's terrible.
Alex is just putting two thumbs down on the Siskel and Eckel version of software ratings.
I mean, guys, Blackboard was notoriously bad even like 10 years ago. I can't imagine it's gotten better.
Well, thankfully, the co-founder has, he went to actually Precision Hawk, which is a drone startup, left that in January, is now onto his new company, Class.edu. And their first product is not so casually called Class for Zoom. For everyone listening, I suggest reading my story because the demo does a really good job and I won't be able to do it as great of a job. But the features are basically creating a Zoom if it was genuinely built for teachers to lead a class beyond kind of a one-on-one discussion, which is kind of how Zoom is right now. So some of the features, I'll run through them really quickly, is a teacher can kind of launch live assignments, quizzes, and tests. Then it can see students complete them while also seeing their desktop view. You have to give permission, but in some way it's like proctoring. And we can debate on if that's too much power or not. It can also kind of unmute a class or mute a class, which is good for early learners. It can, its structure kind of puts the teacher on the left and lets students toggle between different views of the TA, friends, assignments they're talking about. And then finally, it lets students kind of break out and ask a teacher a question while staying in the Zoom call. It can kind of do a one-on-one Zoom with them on the side to ask questions in case they're shy and don't want to talk in front of a whole class. So those are some of the big features.
I feel like the modern teacher is becoming like a DJ. They've got to have like 4 records spinning at all times. They've got to be like roaring in the crowd. I mean, this is intense. Like, to me, the only thing I need in a classroom is a mute button to shut everyone up so that you can just lecture for an hour straight.
That's why, Danny, I think you'd be a great professor at the graduate level, but I think you'd be a trash 5th grade leader. Natasha, I have a question about the software itself. So is this kind of a sidecar to kind of the Zoom software that we know and use and honestly like? Or is this an entire separate video chatting service as well as software for teachers to also interact more with the students?
Yeah, so I think it's complicated by design, and I have a feeling that Class.edu knows something we don't about Zoom's appetite for acquisition, because it just seems like the startup is pitching itself to be acquired. Right now, to answer your question, it is layered on top of Zoom. Zoom's SDK is $0. And so free, easy to access, and developers are building on top of it. But two kind of deal sweeteners that make its relationship with Zoom acquisition territory is, one, they are a Zoom reseller, so they make money when schools buy Zoom. And that relationship makes them a formal partner of Zoom. And two, the reason I'm writing about them now is that they raised a 16 million seed round, co-led by GSV and Emergence Capital. Emergence invested in Zoom. They also have investments from the guy who named Zoom, who is Jim Scheinman, and Bill Tai, who was Zoom's first investor. So very meta.
Very, very meta. So your bet here is that they have built essentially the educational Zoom variant on top of Zoom. And as a Zoom reseller, they're going to make Zoom money, themselves money. And so eventually Zoom's going to be like, well, we'll just tuck that into our overall platform.
Yeah. Furthermore, like I asked Michael and I was like, well, one way to avoid in case Zoom changes its mood, like Twitter notoriously did and kind of wiped out a ton of apps. Are you trying to build on Blue Jeans or Hangouts or whatever? And he was like, no need.
As a reminder, Blue Jeans is now owned by our parent company, Verizon.
And as a second,
we've now checked our box for including a product placement from our parent company.
And as a second reminder, Emergence Capital backed Crunchbase, where Natasha and I used to work. Not that matters, but if we're doing disclosures while we're here.
Fine. Bill Tai used to be a colleague of mine at Sierra City. So we're all conflicted.
All right. I actually built GSV Ventures headquarters by breaking my hand.
And we are using Zoom right now, and we are dependent on Zoom to record equity. So our life is going to be ruled by all of these people.
Natasha, do you see this product getting actual wide kind of market uptake? Do you think that schools are really going to use this? Is it affordable? I mean, it's cool, but to me, it's a cool product. I don't know how it's doing kind of out there in the world.
My biggest problem with this company is that right now it's only usable for people who have Macs. Any student can kind of still tune into the class, but it only gets that really strong capabilities like the formatting and the toggling between screens and live testing in the way that Class.edu is selling itself if you have a Mac. And so Michael said that the 16 million will be used to working on Chromebooks, which is the low income, most accessible type of computer out there. It's like kind of your minimum viable product. It's usually where people start. And so, yeah, its success will 100% depend on if it moves past the Mac.
Okay. I'm surprised they're not going to Windows next, given that I think more teachers have Windows-based PCs than Chromebooks. And I own a Chromebook and it's garbage. Anyways, one thing we've all been doing, it's fine. It's a little netbook. It doesn't do anything. It's not a teaching device. It's just
it is most accessible, though.
Device.
So I feel like it's going to be doing Windows, but I think the most accessible and thing that I was like, I want to see this happen is Chromebooks, because those are the ones that like IBM and Google are donating to people that can't afford their own computer. And so
yeah, it's one way to win hearts and minds is just to have a huge loss leader